Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Maurya Hanspal, and in this session, we're going to talk about advanced valuation, session number 6. Okay, so we have the session number 5. Sorry, we have the session number 5 today for the process of learning or going ahead in the process of valuation. So, in the previous sessions, I have kept a large number of topics or a large number of concepts and imparting you knowledge on the concept of the valuation. And also, we talked about a large number of valuation models in the previous sessions, starting from the asset based approach, starting from the market approach, your income models, economic models, your DCF analysis. So, all these things we have talked about in detail. Also, we have also talked about how to value the startup companies and especially the loss making tech businesses as well, as we can see them nowadays listing on the stock exchange. So all these things we try to analyze in detail, and we also talked about some of the new measures to analyze the startup tech business, like which are the loss-making companies. And these companies neither have any kind of profitability or cash flows or nothing. So how to value these companies on the basis of both the financial as well as the non-financial measures. Because certainly the non-financial measures can be converted into the financial measures by large number of metrics which are available worldwide. Okay. So in this session, I would be talking about the market approach. Okay. Okay. So we have the market approach. And the market approach is also called your relative valuation. Though we have talked about this in like a bit, not the whole, in the previous session, but like not in deep. So market approach method is one of the most used or prevalent method, which is also called relative valuation or relative valuation, and is used to value the companies. And a large number of these measures can be used to value even the loss making companies as well. Okay. So, what exactly do we mean by the market approach or the approach of relative valuation? So, when we talk about relative valuation, so it basically means we are trying to compare two companies. So, for example, we have company A here. So, this company A is an unlisted company. Okay. And this company is a tech company, or in short, we can say an IT company. Whereas you have a company B, which is listed in the stock market, and again, it's a tech company. Okay. So now, if this company A it wants to project its future, or the company A wants to get itself valued before listing as an IPO. So this company A, an IT company which is unlisted, would compare itself with a listed company within the same industry. This tech company has to compare itself with any of the tech companies within the IT industry only. This company cannot compare itself with any kind of real estate company or a capital goods company or a pharma company or FMCG company or metal company. So one rule that is prevalent here, you must compare your company with a similar company, and that should be within the same industry only. Okay. So that one thing you need to be sure about and need to be considerate about. Okay. So now this company would be comparing itself with company B, which is listed. And now company A would see how has company B performed over the years. Like for example, if the company B is into existence for around like 30 years, and this company A has been into existence, for example, just 10 years. Okay. So obviously this company cannot compare this company with itself on the basis of the varied time frame performance. Okay. So like what would this company do? This company would do the research on company B, and it will see that when this company B, which is again the listed company on the stock exchange, when it was at the same juncture as the company A, that is, इसको भी बस 10 years ही हुए थे. Okay, how was the company performing that time? So the company would go to the history of company B and say that after 10 years of establishment, in which company A is at the present moment, how did the company B was performing? How were the financials? How was the profitability? How were the cash flows and various other stuff? And the company would be seeing each and every item of the profit and loss statement, each and every item of the balance sheet statement, and each and every item of the cash flow statement. and even the statement of equities and the notes to accounts. Also, this company A would also be taking into consideration the effects of the capital expenditures, the valuations, as well as the kind of things or the projections that the company had made when the company was at the 10-year mark. And on the basis of all these, the company would try to frame its valuation. Okay, so one way is to compare this, and one way is to compare on a random basis. Like, because nowadays we have seen the old companies like which were listed in the stock exchange for a past number of years. Okay, the growth rate of that, like basically the growth rate of those companies were slow, because at that time the introduction of technology was not so much, and that is why these companies were striving over the years. And Joe growth these new age companies can achieve in 10 years, these companies have achieved in 30 years. Okay, so like instead of taking the time frame, so they just ignore the time frame and they compare these companies on a one-to-one basis. Okay, but one purpose, the company should be compared within the same industry only. And on the basis of this company A would be like fixing its market price or like various kinds of ratios. Okay, so basically this technique of relative valuation is majorly used to compare an unlisted company with a listed company when this company is demanding valuations from the market, or when the investors are demanding valuation from this unlisted company before being listed on the stock exchange. And certainly this company would have to justify their valuations. Okay, so basically what happens, I will just remove all this first. I'll just give examples of like 3 to 4 ratios of how these companies are taking into consideration and like calculating itself for the loss making companies per se. So what happens if this company B, okay, and we have this company A, which is the unlisted company. I'll just write UN for unlisted and L for listed. Okay, so what happens if the company wants to know its share price? At what share price it must offer its shares? Okay, and the PE ratio of this company is going on to be like, for example, the PE ratio of this company is 2, and the EPS of this company is maybe, let's say, 3. Okay, so 2 rupees is the PE, and these are just the random numbers and make no sense. Okay, I'm just taking the random numbers for the sake of simplicity. So EPS is rupees 3. Okay, so what is your PE ratio? Your PE ratio is basically your share price divided by your EPS. Okay, P is given as 2, right? What is your share price? Share price we have to find out, and EPS is given as 3. Okay, so ideally the price of this B company like should be 6. Okay, so that is something that the market looks upon, that whether the company is undervalued or overvalued. Okay, so what this company can do, this company will take the P ratio of this company, okay, and just assume the EPS of this company or the growth rate of this company is 5. Why? Because this company is a startup company, a loss making tech company, not a loss making, sorry, a profitable company. And the growth rate of a company like which is into the growth stage is much faster than a mature company. And that is why this company's EPS would grow at a faster rate. So 5 into 10 karenge, so this company would command a share price of 10 rupees. So that is on the basis of pure relative valuation. A pure relative valuation is done. But again, if this mature company is commanding a price of 6 rupees and this company is commanding a price of 10 rupees, then people can raise concerns over the thought of the valuation of these companies, whether this company is overvalued or not. Because if a mature company is asking for 6 rupees, so why this company is asking for 10 rupees? Okay, so further these things have to be taken into consideration. A plain vanilla kind of relative valuation cannot be done. You have to take into consideration other factors as well. And similarly happens because like these ratios, what is P ratios or PB ratios, all these are basically called your comparables. Okay, whereas like when we talk about relative valuation, like one more thing that you have is about your transaction multiples. Your transaction multiples, particularly talking about the EV to EBITDA ratio, your EV to sales ratio. Like for example, if an established company has an EV to sales ratio of 0.6, has an EV to sales ratio of 0.6, and a new company comes into the market. that is an unlisted company, and that company wants to calculate its enterprise value. ये company A है जिसका EV to sales का ratio is 0.6, and EV to sales is nothing that what is the value of that company on the basis of sales, and this is a listed company. An unlisted company B comes in. Okay, so now it wants to know its enterprise value. Now this company is a loss making company. Okay, but sales to company mein hai, right? Because sales are like not negative, but your profitability can be negative. That is losses because of the huge capex. So that is something different. Now the company wants to know its enterprise value. Now how would the company know its enterprise value? Right? So the company would take 0.6 iska measure, and the company would take its own sales and not matlab ki this company ka sales. Like for example, if the sales of this company B, which is unlisted, is 500, now the company would be doing 500 into 0.6. Okay, so on this basis, the company would be calculating its enterprise value, and the company would be saying that my enterprise value is 300. Okay, so by taking a measure or by taking help from other things, same thing happens in case as I told you for calculating the share price, because maybe the P ratio of a company is 2, which is the share price by EPS. Okay, so a company which is like a kind of a profitable company will take the P as this, EPS अपना खुद का, and multiply it and calculate a projected share price. That share price might not always be correct, okay, because the other things have, they also have to be taken into consideration. Same thing happens with price to sales, as I talked about the EV to sales, because you might have heard about this measure of price to sales, and some people call this measure as a bad measure or as a rubbish measure, but that is not so, which I believe in. Because again, as we talked about the concept of EV to sales, because in that we don't have EPS, we don't have PE, because ultimately you people can calculate the EPS and the PE of the company only when the company is a kind of a profitable company, right? But if the company is not a profitable company, you cannot calculate the P or EPS. Okay, so for that purposes, people have started to use EV to sales or price to sales, or like, and these multiples are called the kind of revenue multiples. Okay, so again, price to sales, अगर एक listed company का price to sales is coming as 0.2. Okay, so again, जो एक unlisted company है जिसको list होना होगा, ठीक है, वो देखेगा कि उसके लिए खुद की sales कितनी है, ठीक है, अपनी sales को वो इस रेशियो से मल्टीप्लाई कर देगा, एंड दैट पर्सन वुड गेट द प्राइस ऑफ द शेयर. अगर प्राइस टू सेल्स है तो प्राइस टू शेयर्स, अगेन लाइक दिस शेयर कैन बी लाइक इन टर्म्स ऑफ योर मार्केट कैपिटलाइजेशन अपॉन योर टोटल रेवेन्यू, तो दैट इज द सेम. तो इसमें क्या होगा, जो कंपनी का प्राइस है इनटू बस शेयर से मल्टीप्लाई कर देगा, तो उसका टोटल मार्केट की कैपिटलाइजेशन भी निकल आएगी. ओके, so that is how people are deriving their own valuations on the basis of the valuation of the company that is listed. And again, plain vanilla valuations mat karna, also take into consideration the market conception or the kind of perception for your stock. Because otherwise, if these things are happening, all the companies like would be listed at a very high premium, as we saw in the case of Paytm as well. Okay, so that was all for today, and I'll see you in the next.